This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Heather Gillis. There's reaction tonight to a story we brought you yesterday on the show. Opposition parties say they were horrified to learn that a woman working as a nurse in central Newfoundland was an imposter and had a criminal past. Central Health said Lisa Driscoll worked 25 shifts at a long-term care home before being found out. She was hired by a private nursing agency by the health authority that they contracted. Driscoll worked between August and November at Lakeside Homes. She was jailed in 2019 after the death of her 4-year-old son. Driscoll, who also goes by Lisa Strickland, was sentenced to 2.5 years for criminal negligence causing death. Tonight, the agency that hired her, Staffing Solutions, still isn't talking, but opposition parties are.
Well, yes, you can point the finger at the staffing agency, but at the end of the day, Central Health selected that agency, so I would hope they would have done their checks and balances. And on top of that, government would have been putting out policies, legislation, and ensuring that the best is done for those who need care. And the ball was dropped here, and no one seems to want to take ownership of it.
If we're relying on these private firms, we can see clearly one of the major gaps that we're basically trusting ourselves to them, as opposed to a publicly funded healthcare system and publicly owned that's answerable to the public. In the end, that's the system we've got to look at fixing.
Meanwhile, Eastern Health is refusing to confirm or deny if it employed Driscoll at any point. The province's largest health authority says in a statement today that discussing individual cases would breach the Privacy Act. As for other health authorities, Western Health says Driscoll never worked at any of its facilities. Labrador Grenfell Health says the same. Labrador Grenfell Health also goes on to say that it has cut ties with Solutions Staffing. And it's not just air travelers who are having trouble getting home for Christmas. A Marine Atlantic ferry is returning to Nova Scotia after it was unable to dock in Port aux Basques earlier this morning. Marine Atlantic says there's a problem with the ship's generator, which powers its bow thrusters. Technicians tried to fix them with no success. The captain then decided to head back to North Sydney due to safety concerns. In a statement, the Crown Corporation says crossings tonight and tomorrow are cancelled due to weather. Marine Atlantic says they recognize the significant inconvenience the situation is causing. They say there are 466 passengers on board, and they'll try to rebook them on tomorrow night's crossing. Richard Sansford is one of those people who's been stuck on the Blue Petite.
When that announcement was made, there was a collective cry of grief and disappointment upon the entire boat. I think, everybody kind of let go of their emotions all at once.
Well, it's a beautiful Tibbs Eve out there today. Lots of sunshine across the province. The calm before the storm, because things are really going to change as we head through the weekend. Let's take a look at what's going on. A big area, a rapidly intensifying area of low pressure heading across Ontario at the moment and starting to move in to the maritime provinces as well, bringing lots of wind and rain right along with it, as you can see there, and a big ridge of high pressure over Newfoundland and Labrador, which is why we're seeing some calm conditions. Now, as we head through the next couple of days, certainly into tonight, we are looking at these warnings already in place. Wind warnings, rainfall warnings, special weather statement, and then up across Labrador, this is winter storm warnings, as well as some blowing snow advisories. Now, there is also a storm surge warning along Port aux Basques and Burgeo. We're looking at those waves as high as 4 to 6 meters. Now, this isn't going to be super significant, but around high tide, we may see those water levels exceeding high astronomical tide. So certainly something to keep an eye on, but we'll break down the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. A new $1.2 billion funding package from Ottawa will partially go toward upgrading Gander's search and rescue helicopters. A statement from the Department of Defense says the money is to expand and modernize the country's Cormorant helicopters and to build a new flight simulator. Currently, Canada has 13 Cormorant search and rescue helicopters, which operate out of Gander, Nova Scotia, and BC. The money will go toward upgrading the helicopters to the most advanced version, expanding the nation's fleet to 16, with the additional helicopters to be stationed in Ontario. And a Supreme Court judge has tossed legal action launched by independent MHA Eddie Joyce against an array of politicians and a legislative watchdog. Joyce's lawsuit was related to the handling of a harassment complaint that saw him turfed from the Liberal cabinet and caucus in 2018. 2 years later, Joyce filed a statement of claim seeking damages against 4 people: MHA Sherry Gambin-Walsh, then Premier Dwight Ball, former Speaker Perry Trimper, and the Commissioner for Legislative Standards Bruce Chalk. This week, Sandra Chater, the justice, struck down Joyce's claim because of parliamentary privilege. And in a separate lawsuit, Judge Chater also dismissed claims by another former Liberal MHA, Dale Kirby. It was for the same reason, parliamentary privilege. Kirby had launched legal action against his former colleagues, Colin Holloway and Pam Parsons, over complaints they made against him under the MHA Code of Conduct. Well, only 2 more sleeps until Christmas Day. But for many in the province, tonight is an eve of celebration. It's Tibbs Eve. But where exactly does the tradition come from, and what does it mean? Well, Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm has the answers.
For Dave Whitty, Tibbs Eve has been directly linked to giving a concert for more than a decade.
2007 was the first time I put off a Tibbs Eve show, so I mean it's been a while since I've been doing these shows, and it really it's just a great kickoff to the holiday season.
A special show in a special atmosphere.
Newfoundland is so special, especially here in St. John's. It's so special around the holidays. A lot of people are coming home for the holidays, people who haven't been home in a while. Everybody's getting off work. I mean, the students are out for the semester, and so everybody's just in good spirits and ready to let loose for some Christmas fun.
After 2 years of COVID restrictions and cancellations, this year is the first one back to a normal show for Whitty.
1 year ago today, they shut down the whole city again. We lost our Tibbs Eve show. I mean, really excited to be back, at full capacity and put off a real good show.
The day likely originated on the south or southwest coast of Newfoundland, and then by the 1990s made its way here to St. John's.
It originated in the saying, not until Tibbs Eve, or I'll do that on Tibbs Eve, which meant never. This wasn't just in Newfoundland, this was throughout the English-speaking world. So 400 years ago, a parent might say to a child who was asking when something was going to happen or when they were going to get something, you'll get that on Tibbs Eve. And if the child said, for instance, well, when is Tibbs Eve, then the adult might say, this traditional saying, it's neither before nor after the New Year. And that kind of settled it into a kind of a Christmas or an anti-Christmas sort of thing.
These days, Tibbs Eve is not about nothing. The modern version is an excuse or reason to raise a glass or two with friends.
I remember hearing about Tibbs Eve a little bit as a kid and stuff like that, but to me, Tibbs Eve is, it's the old saying goes is that Tibbs Eve is the day where you get together with your friends before you spend a few days with your family.
If Tibbs Eve has a headquarters, it's here in the bars on George Street. And for a lot of people, it's how the holidays start. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
When the faithful come here to Topsail United Church, they're going to hear a pump organ which has not been played in decades.
Hello everybody, I'm Terry Roberts with the CBC, wishing one and all a happy holidays. But there's something very important I want to talk about. It's about affordability, it's about reliability, it's about efficiency, and I'm not talking about Muskrat Falls. My Christmas wish, one more year with this baby. There's a few imperfections. After 14 years, she's a little long in the tooth, but she's all mine and gets me there every time.
And as you may have noticed a little earlier, Ashley is not here in the studio. Ashley, where are you tonight?
Yeah, no, I'm not, because I had to get out on a jet plane as fast as I possibly could to beat the storm so that I can enjoy Christmas with my family this year in Ontario. So I'm telling you, it looks like this is a messy one for sure, especially here, but we're going to see those winds as well across parts of the island, and then some of this snow as well. Let's take a look at what's going on out there across the country. We've got this big area of low pressure that is already bringing some wind and messy conditions across a good chunk of the maritime provinces. Right now, we're sitting under a ridge of high pressure in and around Newfoundland and Labrador, but that is about to change as we head through the night tonight. Just taking a look at the temperatures, they're going to dip as we head through the overnight below zero. And then as we get into the morning hours, those temperatures will eventually climb. But, you know, minus single digits through the night with those winds really ramping up, especially for the southwestern portion of the island. Those winds will be out of the southeast, gusting as high as 80 and then 140 kilometers per hour in some of those exposed areas. Now, as far as Labrador is concerned, your temperatures well below zero, minus 14 in Cartwright, minus 13 in Lab City, but take a look at what happens as we head through the day tomorrow. Those temperatures dramatically rising, especially across the island, and that is why this will be mainly a rain event. Now, as far as what's going to happen, let's time it out. As we head through the evening hours tonight, winds really ramping up, likely starting as some flurries or ice pellets for the southwest, and then this will be all snow for Labrador. It will really rapidly intensify as far as those snowfall amounts are concerned, snowfall rates are concerned. But as we head through into tomorrow morning, the snow will change over to some freezing rain or even ice pellets, and then quickly change over to rain, especially along the south coast. And then by the time we get to the afternoon, most areas should be seeing rainfall, heavy at times. Now for the northern peninsula, this will start as snow, change over to some ice pellets, and then eventually end as some rain or drizzle into the afternoon hours. Now, mid-afternoon, still very much in the thick of it for eastern areas, pretty much the eastern half of the island with that rain, and then this snow is going to work its way across the big land. Now, by the time we get into the evening hours tomorrow, things will start to clear out for the west coast, and then this is where we'll see that rain ending as drizzle for the northern peninsula, and that snow tapering off as well across the island. This will really be the story as we head into Sunday morning. As these temperatures drop, we're looking at the potential for some flurries for Christmas morning, it looks like, for the west coast. Now, as far as winds are concerned, this really will be a fairly large story. We're looking at those winds gusting as high as 100 to about 100 kilometers per hour for Lab West, and then areas along the west coast, especially those of you that are prone to southeasterlies, will see those gusts fairly high through a good chunk of tomorrow morning, and then eventually we'll start to see those winds ease as we get into Sunday morning, so that will be very nice. Now, as far as rain and snowfall amounts go, we're looking at about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow for the northern peninsula before this changes over to rain. The majority should see rain, heaviest along the south coast, between 30 to 50 millimeters in some cases. And then Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures your snowfall amount somewhere between 15 to 20 centimeters. Taking a look at your Sunday forecast for Christmas, looks pretty nice, although above zero, the chance of a few showers, especially for central eastward, and then that will be flurries for the west, and then same thing up across the big land. And then your Monday, looking nice as well. Temperatures are dropping down to more seasonable conditions for Labrador, and minus single digits the story, except across the Avalon, where it'll hover around 2 degrees. Just before I leave you tonight, wanted to share this great shot. This is a beach walk in Deer Lake. Greg shared that great shot with us. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to my Facebook page, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
And that is a beautiful shot. Now to Topsail, where the local church, the United Church, is receiving a special gift this Christmas. Anthony Germain has that story.
It was part of my husband's family, so it came to reside with us in the basement, and it's been there ever since. Then we started trying to negotiate to get this organ back home. They weren't too receptive to the idea at first, so then I provided a few pictures, and anyway, as the interest grew, the organ finally made its way back.
When we first heard that a new instrument, or I should say a new old instrument, was coming to our facility, myself and the board were kind of skeptical, wondering where it would fit. We already have an organ, we already have a keyboard, we already have a piano. So what would be the purpose? Did it actually work? And so we had a little bit of trepidation first about really accepting this gift.
And how did that change over time as the organ was delivered?
We decided we would put it in the vestibule, have a place of honor or a place of memory to the old church by the side of the road. But when we saw that it really wasn't as mammoth as we expected, we thought, well, it really could fit in the sanctuary, and so it finally made its way here.
The challenging parts of this instrument partly stem from the fact that I was a pianist most of my life, so you have to adjust to a different amount of keys. And also your dynamics are controlled by the stops that you pull and the amount of air that's flowing through the instrument. So for the pump organ, you have to pump the air through the instrument with your feet, and that has to be going at a constant motion or else the sound will stop. And you also, the action's quite a bit harder, so you have to adjust the way that you attack the keys.
How motivated were you to have this organ leave where you live?
Well, I thought 40 years living with an organ that I didn't use was probably long enough.
Well, the turning point for us was when Madeline played it and assured us that it was in good operating condition and that it had a really nice sound. And so we decided that we would use it for our special anniversary service, which would be a service celebrating music and celebrating the history of this place. And so for the final hymn, Madeline played it. And it was so overwhelming. As soon as Madeline began to play, I started to cry. And I have to tell you, I'm not a crier in worship, and so it was just such a visceral experience, and I think it might be a throwback to when I was a little girl. The little church that I grew up in had a pump organ. It's music is so emotional, and and especially amongst a congregation who loves music and loves to sing, it was just so overwhelming and moving. This Christmas Eve, I think the congregation are going to be very pleasantly surprised when they hear the organ played for one of the hymns. And so I think it's just that joy and that connection again. I think it's just, and that's all the Christmas story is about, is that joy, that love as we celebrate new birth and life amongst us. I think that will add so much to our service on Christmas Eve.
Time now to bring some special greetings to some special viewers. Happy anniversary to Lloyd and Shirley Burton of Corner Brook celebrating today. Happy 50th anniversary to George and Barbara Sallier of Forteau, who celebrated on the 21st. Happy 58th anniversary to Edna and Reggie Lidstone. Happy 50th anniversary to Brian and Patricia Power. They celebrated with all 6 of their children yesterday. Happy 54th to Reg and Mary Hines. Happy 50th to David and Christine Barber of Paradise. Happy 58th anniversary to Vivian and George Walters of Isle of Mort. Happy 55th anniversary to Bob and Teresa Kettlewell. Gus and Zita Foley of Tilting are celebrating their 50th on the 26th. Happy 63rd to Vera and Bert Andrews residing at the Springdale Retirement Living Center. Happy 53rd wedding anniversary to Bob and Pat Taylor of Corner Brook. Pete and Lorraine Wadman of Dunville celebrating 56 years of marriage on Boxing Day. Happy 50th anniversary to Wayne and Linda Freak. Happy 62nd anniversary to Stanley and Trixie Brown of Trinity, who celebrated on the 22nd. Happy 62nd anniversary to Mabel and Harvey Best of Torbay, celebrating on Boxing Day. Happy 50th to Hazen and Mary Coffin of Conception Bay South. Eric and Bridget Way from St. John's are celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary. That was yesterday. Happy anniversary to Ken and Diane Batten of CBS, celebrating 50 years on the 22nd. John and Rose Bragg of Grand Falls, Windsor, celebrating their 59th on the 24th. Happy 60th to Lauren and Grace Wicks of Clark's Beach, wishing Clyde and Pansy Diamond a happy 55th wedding anniversary. Happy 54th to Ella and George Burry of Badgers Key. That was on the 20th. Happy 65th to Norman and Ruby Hillier, celebrating today. Happy 63rd anniversary to Hayward and Nina Avery of Southport, who celebrated yesterday. Happy 59th wedding anniversary to Wilbur and Loretta Patty. Happy 53rd anniversary to Horace and Norma Hookie of Port Rexton, celebrating today. Congratulations to Marion and Lester Warren of Upper Island Cove on their 56th wedding anniversary. On to our birthdays. Happy 92nd to Oneus Ralph of Grand Falls, Windsor, who celebrated on Wednesday. Happy birthday to Mary Jane Hopkins, who turns 94 on the 27th. Happy birthday to Frances Taviner of Corner Brook. Happy 101st birthday. She celebrates tomorrow. Happy 90th to Catherine Sims of Lewisport. And a special birthday greeting to Janet Bath of Gander Bay South. She's going to be 91 tomorrow. 99 birthday greetings go to Jessie Olive Collins on December 28th. Happy 94th birthday to Mamie Colburn of Long Island, living in Springdale. Happy 92nd birthday to Marjorie Reynolds of Carbonear, celebrated yesterday. Happy 91st to Harold Anderson, formerly of Gander, now living in St. John's. Happy 91st birthday to Wesley Piercy of Norman's Cove, who celebrated Tuesday. Happy birthday to Melinda Heath of Beaumont, who celebrated her 100th birthday yesterday. Well, our next guest is a very special person and very, very busy this time of year. It's Santa Claus, and he's joining us now from the North Pole. Santa, thank you so much for joining us. You must be so busy. How are preparations for Christmas Eve going?
Oh, thank you, Heather. So thank you for inviting me. Everything is going very, very well at the North Pole. We're down for the final countdown now. The sleigh is getting packed and the reindeer are getting ready.
Excellent. So glad to hear. But there's a really big storm sweeping across the country today and into Christmas Eve. How is that going to impact your travels around the world tomorrow night? So you'll still be able to deliver all those gifts to kids.
Oh yes, no matter what Mother Nature throws at us, we're going to be well prepared up at the North Pole for any weather that we may have. On our worst case scenario, we'll take Rudolph with us to make sure we can get around the world with no trouble.
And he has a really bright nose, so I think he should be able to help you out, is that right?
He certainly does. He comes in handy when we have bad weather.
How are the rest of the reindeer doing? What do they need to do to get ready?
Oh, they're doing wonderful. They've been relaxing, getting ready for the big night tomorrow night. And now this evening and again tomorrow morning before we take off, we're all going to have all the reindeer will have a big feast of oats and carrots to make sure they have really nice full tummies before we lift off.
And Santa, what are all the boys and girls asking for this year?
Oh my goodness, we've had so many different requests. Of course, there's always the traditional toys that are always popular, the Etch-a-Sketches, the Slinkies, the Rubik's Cubes. But of course, nowadays we have the Nintendo Switches, we have the different types of Squishmallows. We're very popular this year. Lots of wonderful toys being asked for by all the good children.
And Santa, I know kids like to leave milk and cookies for you and carrots for the reindeer, but you know, the most important question here is, what's your favorite cookie?
Oh, well, I like the round ones that Mrs. Claus makes, you know.
Santa, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you must be busy. What do you have left to do?
Oh, we have a few last minute things before we take off. We have our checklist that all the elves go through to make sure that everything is packed in the sleigh, and Santa has everything he needs to make sure that he can make his deliveries.
Okay, Santa, well, thank you for all that you do and all the joy that you bring to people. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And on that note, that is our shortened version of Here and Now tonight. I'm Heather Gillis. Stay tuned now for a CBC NL special. Good night.